As Rick said, my name is Jim Hauser with Epicor, and we're proud to support LBM Strategies as a gold member, a gold level sponsor. I've been asked to introduce the next session, which is a panel discussion on attracting next-gen professionals. So I'm going to read this to make sure I don't screw it up. Attracting, hiring, and retaining young talent is one of the top challenges facing LBM leaders. To learn what next-gen pros are looking for, we invited Sunny Bowman, president and owner of Dakota County Lumber, recently certified as a great place to work, to lead a discussion with 4 members of this year's LBM 40 Under 40 class. In this interactive session, these young leaders will share their work values with insights on how to implement programs and processes to make you a top employer in your area. So please join me in welcoming Sunny and her panelists, Mike Linden from Hamilton Lumber, Emily Morgan from Ashby Lumber, Clara Collins from S.W. Collins Company, and Aaron McGrean from Beisser Lumber. Welcome, everybody.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Sunny Bowman. I am the president and owner of Dakota County Lumber, which is a single location dealer outside of the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area. We serve the whole metro area. Did about $30 million in revenue last year, 44 employees, so small but mighty and growing. And I'm super excited to get to moderate this panel today and talk to these awesome, am I allowed to call you guys young leaders? 40 under 40 leaders, and just share a little bit about kind of what we're looking for in the industry as we move forward. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by letting everyone introduce themselves, because I don't want to mispronounce anything, and also they'll do a better job of letting you know kind of who they are, what they do, how long they've been in the industry, age, and giving a little context for who their companies are geographically and also size-wise, that sort of thing. So Clara, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Clara Collins from S.W. Collins Company in Northern Maine. I am our operations manager. We are a 6th-generation family-owned business with 5 retail locations and a millwork shop. 28 years old, and I came back into the business in 2020, and we have around 110 employees.
Okay, I'm Mike Linden. I'm the VP of Sales and Purchasing at Hamilton Building Supply, single location in Trenton, New Jersey. We do about $38 million in sales. What else did I leave out?
How old you are?
Oh, yeah, I'm 38 years old.
I asked if I could ask them how old they are. They all said it was fine, so.
38 years old, been in the industry for just under 10 years, so.
Thanks.
I am Aaron McGrean. I work for Beisser Lumber. It's in Iowa. We have 3 locations. I've been with Beisser for 8 years now. I actually started Beisser straight out of college, so it's my only full-time job I've ever had. So 8 years later, 32 years old, and still there and enjoying things as our business analyst.
And what is a business analyst?
Oh, a lot of things. They call me the utility player, basically. I plug in a lot of different areas, and I touch all parts of our company, so it makes it for me to help a lot with our culture, actually, and that's a big thing to talk about today.
All right, and I am Emily Morgan with Ashby Lumber. We are 2 locations in the East Bay Area in Northern California. We've got, we do about $100 million annually out of the 2 locations. We've got 180 employees. I've been in the business for 20 years now. I took over as CEO in 2019. And I just squeaked in on the 40 under 40 thing, so I don't know, I think it was a technicality, but I am 40.
They published it months ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So. Okay, well, so what we wanted to talk a little bit about today, we've been tasked with the very small task of being the voice for an entire generation or 2, right? You get to represent all millennials and Gen Zs, so congratulations. We wanted to talk a little bit about what makes our generation, right, really feel plugged in and valued at work. In talking and doing our prep calls for this, we kind of figured out that every single one of the companies that's represented here on stage has a markedly different culture than, just the norm or the status quo. Each of these people is very passionate about their company, their culture, the things that they do, and the things that they do differently. And they're super engaged. And so one of the things that we know statistically about Gen Z and also millennials is, yes, we hear that they're looking for work-life balance. We hear, all of the different things about flexibility. But really, one of the highest things when surveyed that comes out in human resources surveys is that millennials and Gen Zs are looking for a place where their voices are heard, and they're looking for a place where they feel like they're doing meaningful work. I feel like that's well represented on this stage, and we want to talk about some kind of stories and tactics that represent that. So, Aaron, do you want to go ahead and start? There's some cool stuff that you guys are doing at Beisser that can speak to that.
Absolutely. So, it's a little close. One thing we've done is we started these peer-led committees, and one of the big ones we had is a safety committee. And what we did was, instead of saying, okay, let's just pick the managers for every department, we had the departments actually pick people from their departments. And so it's not all managers, it's peers that actually are boots on the ground doing the work every day. And so with that, those people have a lot more buy-in, and they feel like there's something they're a part of. Now, it's great to put them in a room and actually have a meeting and stuff, but the big part of all of this is the follow-through. And one thing we have found is just getting feedback from the people and then looking back and saying, okay, what can we actually accomplish? Or is that something we need to actually look further into? And so following up with them on our next safety meeting as to a decision that was made or why it wasn't made or why that isn't something we can or can't do. It's always easy to blame our insurance company, of course. But the biggest thing being for us is just that we are able to actually get feedback from people and then turn around and close that loop of communication and actually follow up with them. And that's how we've really gotten the buy-in from people, is seeing that when their voice is actually out there, it's actually heard.
And have you heard just from people that have been on those committees, or have you seen anything having to do with retention that has shown that this has just been a positive impact in your business?
Absolutely. Yeah, retention, people feel like they're heard. It's, a lot of people we hire are, just, they don't have a college degree or anything for our yard and stuff. And so we're talking about blue collar workers that a lot of times safety isn't considered to be something that matters, but it's actually become part of our culture now at the company. And people actually want to stick around there because they're actually heard and they feel like they're part of something bigger than just a job they're punching in and out of.
Listen, when I asked him what was engaging about Beisser Lumber, and he started with the safety committee, I was not, but they're doing it. Yeah. Clara, you guys do something similarly around your best places to work survey, yeah?
Yeah, so back in 2023, we were recognized as one of the best places to work in Maine, and obviously that was wonderful. We were honored to have been chosen, but really what we wanted to get out of that was the feedback from our team. And so we actually skipped participating this year and created a task force. So over the last year now, again, it's very similar people across positions. So we have dispatchers, payables people, kitchen and bath designers, kind of everybody, regardless of their tenure with the company, participating on that to represent each location, and then going back to their stores and getting even more feedback. They're really diving into the numbers and the results on, okay, where do we need to go to be better, to attract more people, better people, retain, because that's part of our vision, is to be one of the top employers. So it's been really great to have the input from everybody, and we actually have a non-family member kind of leading the group because we wanted to give people the chance to speak openly and freely and not have to worry I can't say this in front of them, but we want them to know we want the feedback. So we're planning to redo the survey again this year and hopefully have made improvements where people want to see them and can be ranked even higher.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Mike at Hamilton, you guys have your Hamilton Builds program that I definitely want you to touch on, because we're talking about attracting the next generation of people in, and they have something really innovative going on there. But one of the things that when you talked about Hamilton Builds, right, was you talked about the fact that you'll get people in the door and it's your culture that keeps them there. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a really young culture. Everybody works together with each other, trains each other very well, and really just helps each other along and doesn't really look at it as a selfish, I'm selling something. It's more a company is selling something, we're selling something as a team. But with Hamilton Builds, what we're really doing is just developing recruiting tactics to find the young talent. So we were visiting technical schools or high schools or career days and putting ourselves out there, but educating the younger people that we don't just sell lumber. We have a delivery fleet, we have a warehouse and operations team. We even have, obviously, accounting, HR. So there's other avenues in our industry that aren't just selling lumber and dealing with customer service. So that's kind of helped in getting the word out there. But there's still a lot of questions that we hear, like what's college requirements, educational requirements, all that kind of thing. When they can start, how many hours they can work as a minor and all that. So it's really just trying to educate them on what possibilities they have versus looking for a career at that time in their lives.
Yeah, and so we're similarly sized, right? Similar revenue points, similar amounts of employees. And I think one of the things that you said when we were talking about this previously was like, it's so important to be able to actually show people a career path in a business of our size, because maybe we don't have huge corporate opportunities and defined career paths. So can you tell us a story about a time or two when somebody was able to just kind of completely change tacks?
Yeah, we've had a bunch of young people come in and work for us and start in one area and eventually migrate to another. Particularly, we've had people in our install department that were young and just simply asking, hey, what are the odds that I get into sales, or is there a possibility for me to get into sales? Kind of jumpstarts that argument or that talk and shows the initiative on their end and helps us realize, okay, we can unplug him here and plug him in here and fill a hole in our sales department. So we've really been open with our employees in cross-training and moving departments if they really want to. So it's really just hearing them and understanding that they want to be here and they're not going anywhere, and finding the right fit for them in our company.
And I would say, the amount of times that Scott, our COO, is over there, and he really looks at our employees and staff with like a sports team general manager's mentality, right? Like he's looking at talents, he's seeing where people can plug in, and the amount of times when he's come to me and said, oh, so-and-so wants to try this, and I'm like, no. Like, immediately no, and then we put them there and they pan out and turn out to be just wonderful at, switching completely to a different course of action is incredible.
Again, it's right people in the right seats. If they have the personality to sell and to talk to people, sales is probably their avenue. If not, maybe, accounting or the yard. But it's really us as managers and us as owners and finding out where people fit and where to put them.
How do you think you guys foster that kind of open door culture? Like, people just know that they can bring it up to you?
Yeah, I mean, we allow an open door policy basically with our customers and our employees. So if anybody wants to go into the CEO or the president's office and complain or ask a question, they're open to do that whenever they want. And that makes it a lot more easy for people to ask the questions, obviously, and have the conversations that they don't typically want to have.
Yeah. Somebody coming to the office door and saying you got a minute is like the thing that strikes fear in the hearts of all leaders everywhere, right? Yeah. That's great.
Can I just add one quick thing to that?
Yes.
Because I think another thing, we're we consider ourselves fairly small, so we don't have a ton of career tracks either. One of the things that we've done is inside our department sort of created smaller tracks. Peter talked earlier about copying from Amazon. We took this one from the Googles and the tech companies where they've got levels. So we've got 5 different yard levels. So when we bring someone in, they're level 1, and we have a very clear list of things they need to be able to do to move to a level 2, to move to a level 3. And it really just creates a clear, transparent path for them to continue to grow in their role, but also helps them feel like they're getting somewhere in their career versus just, I'm always going to be a yard guy. So.
Yeah, and looping back to the point about feeling like your work has meaning, like you're engaged, like you're part of a greater team. I mean, I'm from Minnesota. We're the land of like PJ Fleck and Row the Boat, right? Like, so everybody rowing in the same direction is so important for creating that engagement. Emily, I'm gonna throw the next question at you because you became CEO at 35, and obviously like the highest level of leadership in your company. So you've had a front row seat to youth in leadership and what that's done at Ashby Lumber. As we've we've talked preparing for this, like we realized that there's young leadership in every single one of the companies that's represented up here at really high levels. So I was just wondering if you could comment a little bit on kind of what you've seen young leadership do for your company.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things. One, for me personally, having gone through, working all the different jobs in our company and then taking on the CEO role, I feel like I gained sort of the confidence needed to know, like, if I can do this, anyone can do this, right? And so that's helpful for me, just working with my team, who are also a lot of young leaders, and I think giving them the confidence that if I can do it, they can do it too. So, this came up yesterday. If you can see it, you can be it. I think that just kind of naturally occurs with the younger leader in the organization. I think the other part for me, I am considered a geriatric millennial, so I'm like just on the border there. But
the labels are so tough.
Yes, I know. So yeah, but when I took over as CEO, I was pregnant with my second child in November of 2019, and I was on maternity leave when COVID hit. So I was at home with 2 kids. Luckily, my husband was fully remote, and he was able to take paternity leave and help because I had to work. That was, as you know, especially in the beginning, a very crazy time for all of us. So part of what that led to inside our company was me having the realization that not only should we be having, a maternity leave policy for the women to be able to be home with their kids, but it's important for us to support the men as well, because the men all have wives that need support in their homes. So, we kind of adopted a maternity and paternity leave policy based on that. So it's those types of things, just having the relatively current lived experiences of a younger person that I think and just as a company, we're able to kind of adopt the flexibility and understand what younger people need to support sort of the work-life balance and really what they're going through at home.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on a little aside here because, we're talking about leadership and culture, but one of the things that you guys have done around your mental health benefits, I think is really cool, and that the room should hear about it. So will you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, when we were just having this discussion, I think we kind of went back and forth just about what the differences are, and I was telling Sunny that I think we've really tried to make it in our culture okay to say, hey, I just need a mental health day, and kind of normalizing that. It is kind of shocking to me once we've started doing that, how often it happens. And I think we all know sometimes, like, that's something we need, but rather than forcing people to call it, say, oh, I'm sick, or, sniffle, I'm not going to be there today. We're saying, hey, just tell us what's going on. You have PTO. If that's how you want to use it, it's up to you. So we're really just trying to kind of, it's what everyone's talking about, but create an open culture where people can be really honest about what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, and I mean, the more that the CEO stands in the gap for those people and, tells maybe the generation that's going to say that that's a snowflake move to take a mental health day, right? It tells them, like, no, this is an accepted part of the culture and it's okay, the more the culture changes. So I think that's just an awesome benefit to having young leadership. Mike, you guys have young leadership at Hamilton as well.
Yeah, same thing, transparency with everybody. And if you're honest with me, I'm going to be honest with you. Goes a long way, not just with the younger generation, obviously, but the older generation. But yeah, the younger leadership definitely drives more younger people to apply, more younger people to get involved and ask the right questions, participate in safety committees and committees like that. So yeah, it's definitely helped attract more young talent.
Well, and Aaron, you sat through the transition to a young president as well. What did that do at Beisser?
It brought a lot of new energy and just enthusiasm for everybody, even like our whole team, not even just young people bringing it in, but anybody at our company felt a lot more energy bringing new leadership in. And then also, I think asking different questions. He came from a different industry, and so he has a different angle on things. We've all been used to one way of things, and it helped challenge us to think outside the box a little bit more.
And Clara, we talked about it from a family business perspective. Having youth in leadership has been really good for you.
Yeah, it's definitely provided a sense of stability to our team, knowing, okay, SW Collins is going to continue to the next generation. They're not going to sell or close. I mean, we've been in the community for 180 years, so we've really have some deep roots in there. And being able to, as they were mentioning, like offer that fresh perspective that it might not have worked 10 years ago, but a heck of a lot has changed in 10 years. So maybe it's time to explore it again or take bits and pieces of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just each of your companies not being afraid to advance people, right? Like not being afraid to put people into the role, to give them a shot, to try before they've paid their dues,
Give them
or
second, third chances too. If they're not properly trained in one department and don't want to be there anymore, they can move somewhere else. Same thing with mental health. We've had issues, not issues, but we've had salespeople that can't handle sales and don't want to do customer service, and the customers that we deal with are very needy sometimes. So let them figure out what they need to do at home and then come back to us, and we'll have a new role for them or new perspective, something else for them to do. Yeah.
I just have one more thing to add too with it. And the stability is not just, okay, my dad has a successor. It's building that team and that bench and having succession plans for store managers, for purchasers, for all these different roles, because we all know how hard it is to find a good team and good workers, that if you can train young people and get them invested and get them feeling connected, that they'll stick around. And
I was also just going to add that I can't tell you the number of people that, maybe 3 years after I took over started going, well, we're just really glad you haven't screwed it up yet. So, I think they were glad that we kept going, but they were also nervous about the transition.
she's third generation, folks. Like the cards were not stacked the right way. Yeah. Well, okay, so when talking about giving people opportunities, giving people chances, right? Like promoting before we maybe feel like they're ready, and giving them opportunities. We've also had to look outside of the industry to bring in new people. If we're talking about attracting and retaining, like obviously everyone knows about the demographic and generational gap that our industry has faced post-recession. Mike, I know that you hire outside of the industry quite a bit.
I've been in the industry for close to 10 years now, and prior to this, I was in the restaurant industry. So restaurant management, bartending, serving. So that really helped me in the customer service aspect of it, understanding how to talk to people, when to talk to people, that kind of thing. That's always where I've seen success come in new hires, because they're used to actually dealing with people on a regular basis, and going from there. But yeah, that's definitely an avenue that we like to look at. Same with the younger high school kids that are just coming out, have no idea what they want to do. If we can let somebody come in and build their way up and learn different, different materials or different tasks, it's just helps everybody along.
Yeah, and I think, looking at the employer relationship as a two-way street, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's not just about what we're getting from our employees. Obviously, it's also about what we're building in them, especially with the younger generation that's coming in. Like how are we leaving them better than we found them for having worked with us? Okay, so the problem, like you take somebody brand new, right? They don't know a 2x4 from a board stretcher, whatever. So how do you get them onboarded and trained quickly? Like I know, Aaron, you've worked on this quite a bit at Beisser.
Yeah, we've been working pretty heavily at it. It's something that we've realized over the last few years that we don't have a very good training program, and our training just kind of sucked overall. And I mean, everything changes so much. We still do some stuff by paper and some stuff in the computer, so it's really hard to even begin to address those. And so one thing that we started with was finding something that causes a lot of problems for us in all areas, and what can we do to kind of define a process for that. And you start digging into that process and you realize that that's not as simple as just steps 1 through 5. And so what we had to do was really look at our whole actual operating procedure for the whole thing, and then figure out, okay, how do we want to standardize this now, and then test it a ton before we put it to people, because that's hey, you don't get buy-in. But then from there, you take it on something small like that, and you can build the momentum from there that, hey, we've established this now, and we've realized this is the next thing to move on to. And so the best you can do with that, and that's going to be, like we talked about earlier today, a lot of companies have found a lot of value in defining that process, and that's how you can really find metrics from what you're doing with your work and making sure you're holding your employees accountable.
And Clara, you guys have taken kind of the peer engagement model that we talked about earlier and have applied it to your training as well.
Yeah, so at SW Collins, we have SWCU. We call it our own internal university where we bring everybody together, and we've kind of changed it over the years based on what education we need. But we really try to hire people based on their attitude, aptitude, and personality, and then give them the knowledge that they need to be successful. So we use a lot of our own internal people because we have a lot of experts who have been with the company for over 30 years. And even some who've been with us for 6 months that we task them with, hey, become a master on Windows, and you're going to teach the team about Windows. And we also partner with our external vendors to have them come in and do in-person trainings and even go to some of our local manufacturers for some tours, really just to give everybody the knowledge that they need, because nobody in our company is just a cashier. And I don't think anybody in the industry can really be just a cashier because, we're 50-50 pro and DIY, so we get a lot of customers who come in and ask us, how do I do this? How do I install this? And we need to be that expert to help them. So,
what have you seen that do for engagement with your team?
It's been really great. I think it's helped those when we do task, I don't want to say task, but when we give somebody the challenge who's newer to, hey, you're gonna teach this group about Windows. It shows, hey, we believe in you. We see your potential. We think you can do this, and really helps them have that confidence, and again, improves that knowledge sharing within the team, because a lot of the times you have that one go-to person who knows everything and knows how to do everything, but they don't share it. It's not that they don't want to, but they're just so caught up in their day-to-day that they don't necessarily have time. So we really try to carve out, we're very cyclical with the seasons being in northern Maine, so January through April, we try to really dive in and spend a lot of hours on doing that.
And I think what's been interesting as I've listened to your guys' answers and as I've listened to you talk in our prep calls, so none of these tactics are great, but none of them work without the foundation of the culture that you guys have built with, openness, engagement, a place where employees feel like their voices are heard, like they're part of a team. So I think that really shines through at SW Collins as well. Okay, so we're getting close, I guess, to wrapping up. I was just going to give you guys a note that if you have Q&A, we probably won't have a ton of time for it, but these guys have agreed to come help me out at the Recruiting the Next Gen roundtable session. So bring your questions, and we're happy to talk to you about them then. I just wanted to wrap up and close, I guess, with asking each of you. So I've got four of the brightest minds of our generation on stage here, and I'd be remiss not to ask you what you are excited about. What do you see coming up for our industry that just gets you jazzed to be here for the next however many decades? Do you want to go ahead, Clara?
Sure. Well, definitely, I've seen a lot of changes from when I was 12 years old helping stock shelves to now. And I think for me, I just, in hearing a lot of the other presenters talk about it, the technology and the opportunities with it, I think some yards, it's a large financial cost, and there's the pushback from the team sometimes, but the more it becomes normal, I think, again, back to what I was saying, where it's harder to find people. We're not having a choice but to adapt to these technologies, whether it's going to be the price tags that are digital or the robots that go and scan your outs and restock your shelves in the night. Who knows what else the future can hold, but even if it saves somebody 10 minutes a day, you multiply that out, that's huge. So I personally, being operationally minded, just the efficiencies and improvements to that work-life balance or whatever it might be that will come from the technological advances.
That's awesome. Mike?
Yeah, same feeling with technology. On the sales end of it, the e-commerce platforms like Toolbox and everything have made it a lot easier for us to communicate with our customers. So doing that more often and finding the ways that our customers want to talk to us rather than forcing them to answer an email or a phone call. If somebody wants to text us, we're there to accept a text message and reply back and get them everything they need. So e-commerce has definitely helped and simplifying things for our sales staff and staff in general, just to cut out a couple steps.
Yeah, and when we were talking about it, I mean, like, we're talking about, like, it's not just about responding to, like, oh, we can deal with you however you want to. Like, it's about modernizing the way that we communicate with our customers and kind of leading that relationship as our customers change over generationally.
Yeah.
Aaron, you're the nerd on the panel, so tell us what you think. He is a nerd, you guys. It's not a dig.
I think probably big data and artificial intelligence. I mean, everyone hears about it, but I think that there's a lot with computer vision, and I mean, we all look at paper plans still, and there's a lot that's going to change with all that in the future, and I'm excited for what that brings to the industry.
Awesome. Emily?
I'll just round it out, I think, with, all these great answers, just to say that for me, I think, being in the industry for 20 years now, that there's just a lot more diversity and women running the businesses, which is very exciting. I'm hopeful, a lot of us are family, which is how we ended up in these roles, but I think now that we're here, hopefully it means we can bring other women up with us and eventually get these rooms a little more even. No offense to all of the lovely older gentlemen here.
You all look great. And on that note, come to our round table. Just join me in thanking the panelists for sharing their thoughts.